Me and Nat sat down talking to each other. Weightlifting House, hookgrip might strike you as a little bit bizarre. We are two sides of the same coin. We both know a lot about the sport of weightlifting. We both create media content for the sport of weightlifting, and we both create and sell products to the same audience for the sport of weightlifting. But we have always great conversation, whether it was the first time we spoke several years ago, or at this podcast, or at the World Championships very recently. What I actually find with Nat is that when we do talk, we talk for longer than I talk with basically anyone else in the sport. We've always had to kind of shut down the podcast that we've done together because we just go on and on for hours. Now, I started off this episode talking with Nat about a film that was made loosely about his life, a Hollywood film. And I ended up cutting that section and basically putting it at the end because we started talking about poker, which is fascinating, his career in poker prior to weightlifting. But I wanted to stick it at the end so that we could just get straight into the weightlifting side of things. Now, lastly, I've been alluding to, via Patreon only, this time now first publicly, something that Weightlifting House has been working on for, well, a long time really. It's the biggest thing we've ever done, and we'll be launching it in April, within a few months from now. Now, I can't really give away a huge amount about this, but it will change the sport of weightlifting forever. I genuinely mean that. It's absolutely incredible. I'll be drip feeding more information over the next couple of months through the podcast and other sources of media, but if you want to learn more about it before anyone else, there's a sign up link just below. Literally all you need to do is put your email in and we'll start giving you information about the way that we're going to change weightlifting forever before everyone else gets it. That will take you 2 seconds. The link is down below. But until then, enjoy this episode with me, Weightlifting House, and Nat Arem from hookgrip. Or maybe it's Arem. I'll have to ask him next time. Did Hollywood make a film starring Justin Timberlake and Ben Affleck about your life?
You're talking about Runner Runner?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm joined by Nat. Now, here's the thing. Weightlifting media, weightlifting products. So my first question to you is, did Hollywood make a film starring Justin Timberlake and Ben Affleck about your life?
You're talking about Runner Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened with that? I mean, that's like a complicated answer because
Right.
the answer is both yes and no.
Okay. That's what I came to determine. It's like, yes, but loosely. For the segue then, I've got a quote from you where you said, you train for the Olympics, that's every 4 years, and you get 6 attempts. It doesn't get more high stakes than that. And I was thinking, well, the only thing that is more high stakes kind of is poker in some way. So like there's this something to do with high stakes gaming or playing that you really like. Is that what, do you think that's why you enjoyed both poker and then ultimately saw weightlifting and thought there's a similar level of high stakesness, if that's even a word, here?
I mean, maybe. I've never really thought about it that way, but I mean, maybe that's part of it. But I think it's a little different because in weightlifting, it's really all up to you. In poker, it's a game of numbers where over time, you know, a good player is going to put themselves in good percentages situations. But what I would equate poker to, and I'm not saying that these numbers are accurate, but let's just say that you owned a coin that would land on your side 52% of the time. And like your job was literally just walking around to people on the street and flipping them for $20. You know, you're going to win in the end.
Yeah. You just have to keep playing.
You just have to, it's really about volume. It's really about the more people that you can agree to flip with you.
Yeah.
The more you're going to win.
Yeah.
And if you don't flip that many times, you're not going to win that much. And you can also have a bad day. You could easily come home having lost money that day, even if, you know, you've flipped a bunch of times. And the end of a poker tournament is the equivalent to, well, you know, you still have that coin, but instead of flipping for $20 that day, you're flipping for 100K that day. And it's like, it's high stakes, but there's only so much you can do, you know. And once again, when I say 52%, that's like a very made up number. I'm trying to say that there's relatively small edges in something like poker.
Yeah.
And there can be, that's not to say there can't be bigger edges. For instance, a really good player against a really bad player in a heads up situation is a bigger edge. But yeah, the basic fundamental idea with poker is that no matter how good you are, you're going to lose sometimes. Whereas, you know, if you're Shi Zhiyong, you're just never going to lose.
Right.
Because it's completely up to you.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you see Robu Marin just did a 210 jerk and a 168 snatch?
Yeah, dude, you know what's bugging me about it, though? For some reason, why do you call him Robu Marin? Because his name's Marin Robu.
Probably because I just see people's name on scoreboards and I just read them as I see them, and it's surname, first name. And the problem is because I do the news show, everybody hears the way I say things. And like I've heard mispronunciations that I just went with. I was like, screw it, I'm going with this. And then I just hear that come back to me, and I'm like, I've started this nightmare of like pronouncing people's names wrong. I did, however, say Dung Wei today because I remembered my conversation in 2019, and you're like, dude, you know, like ENG is UNG. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. It's taken me a while though.
Yeah, I watch you know, I don't watch all your YouTube videos, but I've watched a bunch of, you know, you're weightlifting news stuff or like Olympic stuff here and there. And I have to say, you have some good information. Like you follow the sport. Actually,
my passion is obvious, but yeah, my names are not great.
You get names wrong that don't even make sense to get wrong. I'm just and I'm not saying you get there. Like I know exactly who you're talking about. You're not saying the wrong person.
Yeah.
But like your pronunciation of the names, I'm just like, how do you even come up with that?
Yeah, I get some messages about it. I need to learn. I mean, we've considered actually getting someone who like, you know, is a linguist. Like I'm somewhat of a linguist. Like I know a few languages, but I just suck at those for some reason. But I need
What else do you speak?
I learned French when I was growing up, lived in France for a little while after I finished university or before university. Latin, obviously not speaking, but translation. Ancient useful. Greek, again, similar. And then I did Italian for a little while, and then dropped that.
Okay. So, I would say that the reason for me it's kind of weird to listen to is because I've spent so much time in these various countries.
Yeah.
And so I've heard native speakers say the names.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you go to the Russian nationals, you hear how they say the names. Like, for instance, they don't say Oleg Chen. They say Oleg Chen.
Oleg.
Oleg. And no one there, you would never hear a Russian person say Oleg Chen. It just doesn't exist. And like people also say, like, how would you say the name of the super who competed at the 2012 Olympics from Russia?
As in,
he got bronze. I'm trying to not say his name. Okay, his first name's so
is it Albegov maybe or something?
Albegov, yeah.
Right.
Albegov. Like they really they emphasize the bay in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's like Albegov is the way that they say it. And once again, I'm by no means like a Russian speaker. Like I don't know. I definitely mispronounce some stuff too, but it's just that once I've heard,
it hurts, isn't it?
I mean, once you hear it 20, 30, 40 times from a native, you start to just say it that way.
Yeah.
Because you can't say it any other way. So
back to Marin Robo.
Yeah, Marin Robo. I know it's probably paining.
Sounds so weird.
You know what's weird is that Gregor also calls him Robo Marin, and
does he?
I'm always trying to correct. I literally we were talking about the snatch last night, and he was like, I was telling him like you finally got the name right because I've been telling him for a while that no, he got it right yesterday.
Yeah,
but anyway, no, I did see that. Like that's a little suspect to me, but you know, we'll see.
That's why I put him in sus. I did that video of ranking weightlifters with Zach, and then he started following me because I guess he'd seen it, and he commented on, I think it was either the 169 or the 210, and he like tagged me and he was like, not everything can be perfect and symmetrical. I was like, trust me, dude, I know, like I'm not like it may seem like I'm laughing at you, but really I think you're amazing. But his lifting is, stanky. It's funny.
Yeah, he's a little wild. I don't understand, to be honest, how someone lifts like that.
Yeah,
and doesn't get injured.
Mm-hmm.
How do you lift that kind of like asymmetric sort of style, heavy weights, training hard all the time, and not have like these like muscle imbalance injuries that crop up with weightlifters? To me, that's kind of insane. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I guess like if you've been doing it your whole life, you just build up this capacity to handle load in weird movements. But even still, I mean, it's to a level that's like you watch someone like, I mean, Lou is like the worst example because he's so symmetrical. But even with Lou, like his left foot moves out slightly when he cleans and his right doesn't. It's like you're always going to see tiny things and they're not going to amount to anything. But the way he does it, like it's absurd. Like you just like his shin angle is backwards sometimes when he catches snatches. Like his knee is behind his heel.
Yeah, he's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but
kind of love it.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
We'll see. I'm kind of curious to see, exactly what happens at Worlds and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Well, if we get time, I definitely want to talk about Worlds. But let's go to Tokyo. Obviously, you weren't there because no one was there. What did you think there were any sort of standout performances? Anything that you looked and you thought that session or that person absolutely did something I didn't expect them to do?
I mean, the first person that comes to mind is definitely Heidi doing a 127 clean and jerk. I would say for the most part, Tokyo played out exactly how I thought it would. Now there were a couple of question marks, like would Jurayev beat Simone? And by the way, that's another thing. People always mispronounce like Armenian names terribly. But anyway,
so it's not Simon. It's not this anglicized version of his name that I've just started saying.
It's definitely not Simon. It's
definitely not Simon. Yeah, Simon.
Yeah, it's Simon. But I'm talking about his last name. As people mispronounce Armenian last names all the time too.
It's probably Martirosyan, because I say Martirosyan, and I'm beginning to realize I'm probably wrong.
It's closer to like Martirosyan.
Martirosyan. Oh, it's like a long Arn, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's they really emphasize the yan at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so an example would be like Norik's last name, or obviously his dad's last name.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the US say Vardanian.
Yeah.
Which just isn't right. It's Vardanyan.
Yeah.
Or closer to what I'm not saying that I'm saying it like an Armenian once again, but it's much closer to like Vardanyan than it is to Vardanian.
Yeah.
And even for someone in mainstream, like for instance, the Kardashians are Armenian heritage.
Right.
It would be Kardashian. Kardashian would be like the way an Armenian would say it, or closer to the way the Armenian would say it. But anyway, so there were some question marks with, will Jurayev win? Will Simone win? Where I didn't necessarily know the outcome of every session beforehand, but I kind of knew, okay, it was going to come down to them. And with the 96s, I pretty much, knew that, Miso was going to win unless somehow Zikan Sao was going to just show up with some sort of like, insane,
right.
But I didn't think he would, but I basically knew that Miso would win, and basically knew the medal order for the most part in a lot of the cases too.
Great.
There were definitely some bad performances, some good performances here and there, but the one that stands out more than any for me was definitely Heidi. And I would say number 2, which I don't think wasn't like talked about extensively, but like the one that sticks out for me on the men's side was Chen Li Jun's 187.
Yeah, that second attempt. I know
the way he did that 187 literally looked like
75.
I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, it was literally easier in the 75, and he's never been. Well, historically, he's had examples. Like for instance, in 2015, he did 183 at 62, which was
that's his
absurd.
best Sinclair, yeah.
But he, when I saw that 187 and how easily he did it, I was just like, what's he even capable of if he needed that for a gold?
Yeah.
If Luis had made a bigger clean and jerk, which I don't think Luis was capable of that day, but if he had made a bigger clean and jerk, let's say Luis had made like 85, would he have made 192?
Yeah.
Like
so, I can't even remember what happened there. I remember it was Mosquera made 75, missed 80, and there was something happened. Then he came and made it. Did he drop it early on the first attempt and then he came back and remade it? I remember something controversial happened.
I can't remember what happened with his missed attempt, but he definitely missed one. But then on the 80, what happened was he basically dropped it too soon, and then they ended up giving him the lift.
Yeah.
Which turned out to not matter that much because Chen Lijun made it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think Luis would have still had the
He would have still had it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he still would have had the silver. But anyway, like the Chen Lijun 87, I feel like I was just like, what? Like the world record's 88.
Right.
You know? And that was just a massive attempt by Pak Jong-ju. So I was just like that one blew me away. Now obviously the natural thing to say is like, oh, Lasha 223, whatever, like all these Lasha clean and jerk, whatever. But for me, it was more so Chen Lijun, just because with Lasha you just expect it, and it looks too easy, sort of thing. Whereas with Chen Lijun, you've kind of seen like the ups and the downs over the years, where he bombs out in Rio, and he's had plenty of bad competitions too. Like Chen Lijun is not a sure bet at a. He's not like Shi Zhiyong.
No.
Like if Shi Zhiyong had I wouldn't say bad meet, because he did have a bad meet in Ningbo in 2019, where he almost bombed out.
So it's not clean and jerk, wasn't it? He missed his first two.
Yeah, he missed his first two. Yeah. Now he opened, relatively heavy, but he, I want to say he was around like 194 there, somewhere in that range. I don't know. I haven't looked at those results in a while, but anyway, he opened relatively heavy and missed two, and then made one or something along those lines. But he, with Shi Zhiyong, you expect it, and with Lasha you expect it. Like I would have bet so much money on either one of them winning. I probably wouldn't have bet so much money on the odds I would have had to.
That's the problem.
I would have had to lay. You know what I mean? Like because then it's like if they lose, okay, I'm out.
If they just get injured,
yeah. But no, Chen Lijun was the guy that stood out for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, to be honest, Shi Zhiyong had me kind of worried when he missed his second attempt. Not because he missed, but when he jumped from a miss 92 to 98, and I was just like, don't get who took silver in that category.
Julio. Yeah.
Julia. No, joking. Yeah.
Definitely not Julia.
And I was like, why? Like, don't give him a chance to take 99 for the win. But then he came and he hit the 98 and it was all okay. But like, just the balls to even do that, I thought was kind of impressive, because he could have just gone like, he could have let Julio Moro take his third attempt, or he could have taken 95 and forced like a 203 or something ridiculous. But, he risked missing that 98.
The 73s, no, I did watch back the session, but I already knew what had happened. But the thing was that I went to that USAW Hawaii training camp, and I was actually on my plane home when the 73s were happening.
Oh, right.
So I wasn't watching it live. It wasn't, I was sleeping, on a red eye from Hawaii to the US.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't actually see it happen. So I don't have the same like recollection of being worried about, Julio Mayora having a shot for the win. I just watched back the session, and I guess I wasn't thinking about that because I kind of knew what would happen. But anyway, no, I could see that being a little bit of an issue, but I don't think Mayora is good for 99 anyway. I mean, it's just my thought. But I think the thing about his situation was that, I mean, as you know, he was pretty injured, leading up to that, and so he was probably just like a little out of practice with heavy attempts. But he's just got so much reserve strength.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times, maybe not in Tokyo, but there's been a lot of meets where he made, 96, 97, 98 or maybe not 98, I guess I have seen him do before
He's done
this
twice,
time. But,
is he? 98?
Well, he did 98 at like Chinese national games in 2017 that I saw. But what I'm saying is that there's lots of times where he's good for more that day, and he's just kind of like taking the world record. And so for him, 98 is obviously heavy. I'm not going to say it's not heavy,
right? Yeah.
But 98's not like a wow, 98, incredible, best attempt of my life. When someone has done like 205, 210 range, it's just anyway. He's insane.
Yeah, he is. So and actually just to mention, it was Heidi who ruined I had like one of those multiply bets on, and I got every single category except for hers. And like, I don't know how much I'd have won, but it would have been a good payout. But I just did not expect her. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. I'm trying to get her on for a podcast because I'd love to talk about it. But like that 27, and again, that was one of those ones where she absolutely smashed it. She did everything she was asked. But the Chinese coaches, you just can't believe that they did what they did. Yeah, they blew it. Like,
yeah,
I
remember I was in a group chat with a few people discussing this while it was going on, and I literally just said something like, the Chinese coaches are blowing this right now. Yeah. And it's not to say that Heidi didn't win it, because she did. I mean, she did what she needed to do.
Yeah,
she did incredible numbers, like 127 for her. I think her PR before that was like 121, and even that was something that was like oh my god, Heidi has made more than 120. This is incredible, blah blah blah. And so, I mean, 127 is insane for Heidi, but the Chinese coaches did blow it. There's just no way that they shouldn't be giving Liao a shot at winning that. Now
especially when she's the clean and jerk world record holder, and you don't give her the final lift. It's like, how have you done that?
I mean, I understand what they were saying, what they were trying to do. They were trying to force Heidi to a number that they thought she would miss.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that the Chinese coaches were sitting there being like, well, not even paying attention to the scoreboard. They were trying to force her to a number, and they didn't want Liao to basically they messed up because they let Heidi essentially take the last attempts. They went first. In my opinion, where they really screwed up was just opening lower than Heidi. Like force Heidi to prove that she can make it, you know what I mean, and give Liao a shot. Because the thing is that Liao makes these, she takes these clean and jerks that look like she's not going to make it.
On the clean,
the clean looks terrible.
Yeah.
Like it looks, there's no way she's going to jerk this. And then she jerks it.
Yeah.
So you have to just give her that shot. Even if she misses, I would have felt better about their decision if, obviously I'm very happy for Heidi. And so when I say feel better about their decision, I'm saying strictly from like a Chinese point of view. I would have felt better about their decision if they had essentially let Liao go 1 kilo higher than Heidi on every attempt.
Every attempt, yeah.
And Heidi had made all of them, and Liao missed her third. I'd be like, you know what? They gave her the best shot, and she couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And, that's what happens in weightlifting. Sometimes you have to make a lift, and sometimes you don't make that lift you need to make.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have said, oh, wow, strategic error. They should have gone lower and forced Heidi to a higher number. And the thing is they were a little bit behind in the snatch, right? But, it wasn't anything drastic. Anyway, I personally, when I was watching it, I was thinking it was a coaching error.
Right.
And I still think it was a coaching error. But at the end of the day, Heidi won it. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So moving to Worlds in a month, I think that 109 category is the new 96 kilo category. Like to have 3 world records set by 3 different people and the Olympic champion isn't even one of them. So you have these 4 athletes. Obviously, Yangzhou is not going to be there, but
Yeah.
like if we see Akbar and Roslyn and Simone,
oh god,
that is so hard to call. Or did I say it really awfully?
Oh god, yeah.
Ruslan.
Ruslan.
Nurudinov.
It's Nuradinov.
Oh, see, I always said Nuradinov, and then I was like, it's probably Nurudinov. It's probably the second syllable that's stressed. Oh,
Nuradinov.
Right. Okay. But that's
even
a tough
though
one.
I will say this: the Nuradinov thing, Uzbeks have said it differently to me.
Okay,
so that's one of the names that I can't really be 100% sure. Okay. Now the announcer who's Uzbek pronounces it Nurudinov.
Yeah.
With an emphasis on like the D or whatever. But I've heard other Uzbeks pronounce it a little bit differently. None of them say Nurudinov. That's not a thing. Yeah.
Nurudinov. I'll go back to my roots. That's how it began. Yeah. I mean, so if those three are competing, how would you call that?
It's a little difficult to say without having, I don't know. It's maybe I'm missing it because sometimes he does stuff where he posts it on a story and then deletes it 7 minutes later.
Yeah.
Has Simon been posting training videos?
No. The last thing we ever saw from him in training was it the 240 he hit like 3 days out from the Olympics that he took down like an hour later.
Yeah, I saw that one. I think I actually reposted that one.
Yeah.
I think like I downloaded it and reposted it, but that wasn't 3 days out. That was like 11 or 12 days.
Oh,
that was like
okay. I don't remember. Yeah.
That was like his first day in Tokyo or second day in Tokyo.
Yeah,
that was well out from the actual competition. But the thing is if you haven't seen training videos, it's a little difficult to say. Now, if they're all in their best shape possible, or the best shape we've ever seen them in, I would lean towards Simon.
Yeah, same. But I just don't have the faith of that, like I do with the Uzbeks, because they look so good. But I agree. Like Simone in his best shape will be, he'll be 200, 201 if he's in like the best we've ever seen him, and then low 240s. And I don't see the other two piecing those two lifts together.
Yeah, if he's in like 2018 Worlds or 2019 Worlds sorts of shape, then Simone, I think, would win. Now, if Simone is not in that sort of shape, then it becomes, Jurayev and Nuradinov, it becomes maybe like a little bit political, so it becomes like it might, and especially when they're competing at home. Yeah, and so then it becomes, it becomes more so a matter of like, who do they want to win? Because I feel like they're fairly evenly matched.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about on their best day where they're both lifting well, they're both in good shape, they're both training hard, blah, blah, blah. However, if I were to say, who do I think will win at Worlds, I would put my money on Nuradinov.
Right.
For the simple fact that he didn't compete at the Olympics. He didn't have that kind of like letdown. I know that he's been training hard because I've seen videos.
Yeah.
And
he just did also, like 94.31 in a comp within the last couple of weeks as well, I think.
Yeah, he's
decent.
And he also has more to prove, I think. Even though he's an Olympic champion and he did the world record earlier this year, he didn't go to Tokyo. So he probably, kind of has a little bit more like fire burning with regards to that. Whereas I feel like for someone like Jurayev, after you go from being, a few years ago, Jurayev, most weightlifting fans wouldn't have even known his name, even though he was competing.
2019 Worlds, he just about, like, people were like, oh wow, did you do like 29 or 31 in the clean and jerk? I can't remember what it was, something right around there.
I would say 29.
29, yeah. And then he was at,
I think like 88, 29.
Oh, he was in Qatar. But again, I think he snatched well there, but it wasn't huge. And then, it's way more recently that he's done some crazy lifts.
Yeah, as recently as like 2018 Junior Worlds in Uzbekistan, he was losing to, I forgot the guy's last name, but it was Irakli. It's not Termanidze. It's
Not
one of the
Termanidze.
other Iraklis. The
Yeah,
Irakli Termanidze is the big guy.
the bigger. Yeah.
It was I think his. Anyway, I can't even remember the guy's name, to be honest. It was one of the Georgians.
Like
he literally
or something.
maybe it was Irakli Chikidze, yeah. But he he lost junior worlds at home to that guy in the 105s.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be close now.
Old category. And I mean, that's the thing that people, I feel like, discount a little bit about weightlifting is that if someone's good or someone's not necessarily lifting as well, that it's going to continue like that. Whereas if you look back, there's a lot of people who their fortunes drastically change over the course of a few years. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for someone like Jurayev, having that extra year was huge. If the Olympics were in 2020, I don't think he's beating Simon.
Right.
So
yeah.
But anyway, it's very kind of interesting how those things change over time. But yeah, for someone like Jurayev, I wouldn't be surprised if he is either not training or like not training that hard.
He posted like a 190 clean and jerk last week, and it didn't look like the sort of person who clean and jerks 240 at the moment. Like it wasn't max, but like it didn't look like he was anywhere near the kind of Olympic shape that he was in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because like I haven't seen enough footage from Jurayev or Simon. The only person I've really seen, I would say, a lot of footage from is Nuradinov. So I can't really predict it, but if I had to guess, I would guess strictly because of the post-Olympics thing that Nuradinov would win if I had to bet right now.
Yeah, that's my feeling. I think also if Nuradinov goes 3 for 3 in the snatch, then I definitely see him winning. Because like I think he tends to open like one attempt lighter than the other two. At least he has done in the last sort of year, Asian champs kind of time. But if he's mid-90s, I think he's got the clean and jerk on the other two probably. But
once again, it's just depending on if we're talking about best shape ever. Because if you looked at Simon doing, I mean, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember at 2017 Junior Worlds where Simon was like a light super?
He tried 246.
246. Yeah. Like Simon,
unreal.
Simon's crazy. You know what I mean? He's willing to do crazy stuff and he's not like scared. Right. And the thing about the Armenians in general is, and I don't mean this in a bad way about the Armenian lifters, but a lot of the Armenian lifters appear, in my opinion, to be kind of like scared. Not necessarily of the weight, but they're like scared of like the coach and everything. Like something about like the Armenian lifters looked very like nervous on the platform.
Like Karapetyan.
Karapetyan. And like Karapetyan and like a few others. Like they just they appear more nervous than other countries. There's a few countries I would say that appear like nervous on the platform. Like they're like worried about what they're about to do. Right. Whereas Simon is not that. Simon doesn't he doesn't get up there worried. Like Simon's like, I'm gonna make this. Now he did actually look kind of nervous on his third attempt in Tokyo. Because I think he realized at that point he was screwed. But until his third attempt in Tokyo, he generally doesn't look like nervous. But like Simon will do something crazy. If Nuradinov makes like 245 at 109 or something like that,
he'll go under like 50.
Yeah, he'll throw 50 on the bar and he won't be nervous about it. No, I think he was a little nervous in Tokyo because of the Olympic aspect of it.
Yeah,
but it's not the weight that makes him nervous. It's But anyway, at like a world championship, I feel like Simon's just like in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I don't anticipate Simon to be in that sort of shape in Tashkent, if he even goes. I don't even know. There there's not even a list, so I don't know.
I think it's on the 6th of November it comes out, so just a few days. I think we see it, something like that. But
is that when the entries finalize?
Oh, that might be when the list comes out. Yeah. I think you're right.
There's a lot, like, just because the entry's finalized doesn't mean the list is coming out.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of cases where it's like a week before the meet, and I'll be having to message people in the country because I want to bring posters of people, and I don't know who to like edit and bring posters of to the meet, you know? So it's it's kind of annoying with weightlifting that way. Like it still feels like it's being run by kind of amateurs in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some aspects of it that are professional, but some aspects of like the promotion of it and marketing of it is very like amateurish and frustrating for me.
So I got a quote from you from 2016. You said weightlifting is a pretty underserved market. I think you were talking about in the media side of things. Do you still feel that way in 2021? Because I think when you said that, obviously ATG was around because he's been there for a couple of years at that point. But I certainly wasn't doing anything. I basically just finished uni and I started like writing about weightlifting. There was definitely no Gen. There was no YKS. There was no Barbell Stories, Luke and Barbell. Squat Jerk Journalist.
I would say in some ways it's still quite underserved, and in some ways it's not. Like for instance, obviously the Chinese are pretty well covered at this point for what people are allowed to cover. Just because if you have dedicated things like Lu Xiaojun Barbell and Squat Jerk Journalists and stuff like that, I mean, they do a fairly good job of like keeping content coming out about those guys. Now, sometimes it's kind of like, I mean, from a weightlifting fan perspective, I would call it stupid content. Obviously, they're just putting up something because they want to put it up. But to me, like, oh, here's a picture of like Lu Xiaojun standing here in a singlet or something. I would just call it stupid content because like I don't care. From a weightlifting fan perspective, I would call it stupid content. For someone who's a Lu Xiaojun fan, it's not necessarily stupid content. But the thing is that they also put up a lot of good content. You know, they put up a lot of like interesting lifts. They really focus on Lu. You know what I mean? And Squat Jerk Journalist really focuses on Tian Tao, I guess. Some combination of the Chinese team. Like, and they both, I would say, do a relatively good job. So in that aspect, I feel like it's decently covered. But there's still lots of weightlifting that just like isn't covered by really anyone. And like I feel like you've like found your niche with like the kind of like weightlifting news stuff, because that's something that Gregor and I just don't do, and really no one does. Whereas Jen and
Jen is
Stu,
most similar to Stu.
Like Jen and Stu, I would put in like a similar-ish category where they're kind of dealing with kind of like artsy or kind of like photograph stuff, and they do some video too. But I feel like Gregor and I are doing the videos better than other people, and they're doing kind of the photos better than other people. And then, I feel like some people are kind of like falling into their niches a little bit. I feel like if Weightlifting House or something like that were to be like, oh, we're going to get into artsy photography, it might not like go great.
No.
Maybe you could hire the person to do it, but
I could maybe hire some of that. No, I could do that.
So I feel like that's good that people are kind of like doing what they're good at. And like I said, I think you do a good job covering the news. You just do a bad job of saying people's names. But the names that worry me the most are the South American names. Like that's really? Where I like that, because there'll be 4 names in a name and I don't know the order. So like, that's what gets me. I mean, do you know how the names work with the 4 names?
No.
Oh, really? Oh, I should just explain this to you.
No, I have no idea. You actually told me that you would tell me once, and then we never got around to it.
Okay, so as an example, Luis's full name, Luis Javier Mosquera Lozano.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Luis and Javier are his given names. Mosquera is his dad's last name, and Lozano is his mom's last name.
Okay.
And you typically go with like first and third would be their name. That's why he's Luis Mosquera. Mosquera is his third name. That's his dad's last name.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But a lot of times they go by maybe their second given name. Like a lot of the Colombians call him either Javier or Javi more so than they call him Luis.
Yeah.
If, for instance, if his coach is getting his attention in the training hall and like yelling from across the room, he'll yell like Javier.
Yeah.
And Luis looks up right away. So
yeah,
his
it's like if someone calls me Sebastian, it's like, okay, I'm looking. Like if you're going to use that name, I'm definitely going to look and see what I've done.
No, I just mean like his friends don't seem to call him Luis, from what I can tell.
Oh, it's his friends.
They call him Javier. Yeah. Like he kind of like goes by his middle name.
Interesting. Okay.
Or not middle name, but I guess second name is what I should say. Yeah. But yeah, so in general, with most, I would say like South American names, you would want to go with the first and third.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there are some weird examples, where it doesn't quite make sense. Where sometimes people will be like siblings, but then have different. Like for a long time, it was like Nacy and her sister were going by like different last names.
Right. Yeah.
But it was like a little confusing. And I speak enough Spanish to communicate with people in Spanish. I'm for certain not fluent, but I can get ideas back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to get them to explain the name thing to them, or name thing to me, like multiple times, but it has never really been like truly explained. But for the most part, yeah, it's just first and third.
Right.
And I would say actually, in terms of names that you pronounce, your Spanish names are definitely not the worst.
Hey,
like you're doing some other ones way worse than Spanish, but a lot of the Spanish ones you actually get, I would say, right or closer to right.
Mm.
One that you say wrong, you say like Lydia Valentin. It's like it's Valentine.
Valentine. Oh, it is. Yeah.
Valentine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do that.
There's just a few others, but like for the most part, your Spanish names aren't terrible. Like you don't say Dahome's wrong.
No.
So there's other
examples.
Definitely don't say the Jones. And like it's hard to get a name like Mayora wrong, because the way that we would say it is the way that they say it.
Yeah.
So, and then there's other things like Katomar's last name.
Valenia.
It's like more like Viania.
Viania.
Yeah. The thing is that depending on which country you're from,
the
double L actually sounds more like a J.
Yeah.
Like Vianica or something like that. And
okay.
So it depends on certain countries. Like for instance, in Argentina, they would say two L's more so as a J.
Mm-hmm.
And in some countries they wouldn't.
Yeah.
So the way that you even say his last name would depend on which country you're from, because Spanish has a lot of that kind of like regional variations and stuff like that.
Right.
But
interesting.
I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Weightlifting media companies, and then I don't know how we got there, but
I probably brought us there. But yeah, I would say overall weightlifting, I still don't feel is covered the way it should be covered. And I wouldn't say the promotion of the sport is ideal, but I would say it's better than it was in 2016.
Yeah.
Just because there are more people involved. And I actually publish stuff less now than I used to, because there is more coverage, and I don't invest the same way into coverage. I invest, I would say, differently into coverage. Not less, because I actually am investing as much or more in some ways.
Yeah.
But I'm investing differently into coverage. And
I feel like you're investing almost like in the archival side of things to some degree. Like you have so much that you don't put out, but you have it just so that somebody has it almost.
That's true with some meets. Like for instance, a lot of youth meets are like that, where like we covered Youth Pan Ams this year.
Yeah.
I think I published one video.
Right.
Now there's some where people bought them or whatever, and I sent them to them or whatever, but they're 95% of what we shot there is not interesting right now is the problem.
Yeah.
But what will be interesting is at like the 2028 Olympics when someone lifted at this meet as like a 14-year-old, and now they're, you know,
and you've got the whole career
contending for a medal. Yeah, you have their whole career.
That's cool.
So a lot of it is, and I'm starting to get to the point now where, you know, I have videos of people's very early attempts that just no one has. Now, part of the problem is that even though I started in 2011 with actual hook grip, you know, media stuff, I didn't start taking video until 2014. Yeah, and I didn't start taking real-time video until 2015, which, I mean, really isn't that long ago. You know, obviously in some ways it's a long time ago, but I mean, it's not that long ago so I don't, you know, I'm still kind of building up that early library of people's careers, but I'm starting to get to the point now where I look up someone's results and I'm like, wait, they were at that meet? And I'm like, I have footage of that meet. I've literally never even watched that video.
Yeah.
And like, I go back, watch the video. I'm like, well, oh wow, that's crazy. Cool. You know, like, you know, watching like Hristov from like 2016 European youth, which was, I think, his first international meet. And he was, you know, snatching like 125 or something like that.
Right.
It's just nutty.
Yeah.
Because now he's, you know, you see him snatching into like the 90s.
Right.
So, you know, that sort of stuff is interesting. So yeah, we do a lot of kind of archival shooting of stuff. And I'm taking less photos now than we used to. Like, I don't invest the same way. Like, typically by now I would have posted photos from, actually a long time ago, I would have posted things like photos from US nationals.
What, like on Instagram?
No. We would put up an album, like albums of all the sessions or whatever, either on the website or Facebook or wherever.
Right.
But I didn't do that this year, and we didn't shoot photos of a lot of the sessions. No, we shot videos of a lot of the sessions, but we didn't shoot photos of a lot of the sessions for the simple reason that, you know, you need more skilled people to shoot photos, so it essentially costs more. I need to hire someone for a lot more per day. They need to show up with a lot more equipment. They need to do this, they need to do that. But the thing is that, you know, Lifting Life is there shooting photos.
Right.
You know, so
there are a lot of people in the US set, like, we don't have it at British Champs where like, you've got multiple people sat there filming, but like in the US, there's a lot of people who are sat there like booking themselves out to film for the day or take photos and stuff.
Yeah, there's at this point, the way that I see it is, I don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
You know, and if I am doing something that everyone else is doing, I want to be like the leader in that space. You know, because there's no point in doing what other people are doing but shittier. And there's also no point in doing something that even if you're doing it well, you don't want to be kind of like on the same level as 12 other people.
Well, you started doing because I remember I was thinking about that with Instagram, and like weightlifting on Instagram to some degree is saturated, like that you're just exposed to so many lifts, it's hard to stand out. And then I think you were the first person to do like a session condensed into 30 seconds. I remember seeing that, I was like, that's the next level that you now have to do, because that is so much more engaging. It's so much better. And it just instantly separates you from everyone who just posts a lift. So then I was like, I got to start taking some of these sessions and trying to condense them down. And you just can't do it all the time because it's a lot of effort to do. But like, that was definitely like an example of you being like, everyone's doing this one thing. Here's the next level of it almost.
Yeah, doing those training videos. So I did those mainly during, I would say, the kind of like the break in meets during the pandemic when there were really no meets going on.
Yeah.
I was just kind of bored just posting old slow-mo videos. And that's actually a reason why I'm not posting a ton right now, because there's just not like a ton to post.
Yeah, we all need content right now.
I mean, I'm okay. Like I have lots of content that would do okay. You know, I could put up content every day. That would do okay. And by okay, I mean, you know, like 40,000 views, 50,000 views. And that, you know, I don't really look at the likes that carefully that much, but let's say like
No.
10,000 likes or something. That sort of range is pretty easy to achieve for like the hookgrip account at this point. But the thing is, I don't have that many 150,000 view videos
Right.
to post right now, which is fine. It's not the end of the world if we don't post that much for a period of time. Like, our followers don't go up, but what I found is that it really doesn't matter exactly how many followers we have. Like, followers are less and less of a relevant stat in like an algorithmic system like this, because it's it really depends on what really matters is how engaging your actual content is when you do post it. Like,
absolutely.
A weightlifting account that has 100,000 is going to get way more views than a weightlifting account that has 600,000 if the content on the 100,000 is more engaging. So it's not too relevant. The growing followers thing, I almost think, is like a thing that the sites do to kind of get you to keep posting regularly. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a reward for you to be like, oh, look, my number went up. But it's like it's like more and more irrelevant to me. It's the same way with subscribers on YouTube.
I was going to say, particularly on YouTube, I found like it's so much about average viewer duration. Like, how long is someone sticking on your video? If it's doing well in that way, YouTube shows it to everyone. But you could have 1 million followers and you'd get like 30,000 views in a video, or you could have 50,000 followers and you could get a few 100,000 if you get a great video.
The other thing too with YouTube is that it doesn't really matter if you subscribe or don't to something. If
it just shows you,
it just shows it to you on the homepage. If it's something that you watch, like, if I watch every weightlifting house video, that when you put a new one up, it'll just show it to me when I load the homepage. So I don't need to subscribe.
Absolutely.
I'm not.
You're not subscribed, like, actually. Come to think of it,
am I not subscribed?
I think Zach is our most followed subscriber, and you actually, I Zach probably has a few more followers on YouTube than you.
Are you talking about hookgrip? Or are you talking about? See, the thing is that I don't watch. I don't go onto the hookgrip YouTube.
Oh, you watch for your own.
Yeah, the only time I ever go into the hookgrip one is if I want to like leave a comment on a weightlifting video. I'll switch over to hookgrip, leave a comment, and then I'll go back to my personal one.
Right.
Which doesn't have any videos on it. So,
maybe I do that. Who knows?
I think I do, but I think it's on my personal one.
I don't.
On hookgrip, I don't like subscribe to anyone on hookgrip because I don't go on it.
On Weightlifting House, I subscribe to like you, Gregor, Zach, Sika, like all the people who were doing stuff, just because I feel like, and I go on those, like I'm on the Weightlifting House YouTube. I don't bother switching back that often to my personal, so kind of just
see. The thing is that I don't watch on my personal. I don't watch that much weightlifting YouTube because there isn't that much weightlifting YouTube.
Yeah. So it's changed so much.
Yeah, so I mean, on my personal YouTube, I'm watching very different stuff than like anything related to hookgrip. I'm typically not watching stuff work related. I'm typically just watching stuff that I'm just personally interested in, which would be like, pouring a foundation for like a garage or something. There's like I watch all sorts of like random like construction related stuff, like the things that I actually find kind of interesting. And I'm just not that interested in the vast majority of, I would say, like fitness content on YouTube, because it's usually kind of like fitness bro stuff. There's not that much for actual weightlifting fans.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I used to just be obsessed. That's all I'd watch was weightlifting stuff. Anything I could get my hands on, I'd rewatch stuff. And now, like, I'm good friends with Zach and Owen, but like, I don't sit down and watch their stuff, and I don't expect them to sit down and watch mine, because like, when you're doing it all the time, like, let me say though, if you brought out like a 2018 training haul with the dun, 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 that, like, I still maintain those are the best training haul videos that we've had. Like, if one of those popped up, like, I'll watch that for sure.
Do you mean on Instagram?
No, on YouTube, I'd watch one of those. 2017 2017. But
yeah.
When Ali
We did a
Mendes
lot
was
of
like
videos. Yeah,
killing it.
we did a lot of videos from 2017 World.
2017, like those were great. If one of those popped up, or if you just posted a training video, I'd watch it. But
I mean,
but most commentary
I've thought
stuff
about
I don't
doing
watch.
them, but so here's the thing. My thought process with YouTube for a long time was, all right, I was like, I'm gonna do I mean, the best way to describe it really would be I'm gonna do low effort training hall videos from the perspective of editing.
Yeah.
As in, what we would do is I would take a full session, I would drag it into the Final Cut timeline, and I would just go through and I would trim
Just
out
delete
anything that. Yeah, I wouldn't edit anything. I would literally, and unless you count deleting as editing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like do some transitions. I wouldn't time anything to music. I wouldn't like, you know, I wouldn't really do any color correction. I would just kind of like drop the whole thing in, put a watermark on it, make sure that like there's no thing where I forgot to stop the camera recording for 6 seconds and like just had it by my side. Like, get rid of anything like that. But other than that, it would just be literally just the session.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and I wouldn't even do custom thumbnails. I wouldn't do a description. I wouldn't even put in a good title. It would just be like Team South Korea 2015 training hall session, something like that.
Yeah.
And the thing about a video like that is that that sort of video takes, and you know this probably from doing some of these videos yourself, but that sort of video, I would say, in terms of like start to finish effort, is under an hour.
Yeah.
And by that I mean starting to think about what to post, going in, finding the videos to the point where I hit like publish on YouTube is about it's not 20 minutes, but it's not super long. And a bunch of it could be export time where I'm not actually working on it. I'm just kind of like, it's exporting in the background while I'm answering emails or something. Here's the problem though. A more highly edited video, it can take a lot longer, you know, just to make a good thumbnail. I mean, there were times where I would spend almost an hour on a thumbnail.
I'd easily at the start. I'd spend a couple when I didn't know anything about how to edit. I could be on a thumbnail for almost half a day, like because just trying to like cut things out and add layers, like it's crazy.
Yeah. So depending on the complexity of the thumbnail, and then a lot of times with those, I end up editing it. Then I watch it through to see what I think of it. And then after I watch it through, I'm like, well, you know, it kind of like gets a little bit dead in that point. Let me trim that out or do this or do that. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me add a slow-mo to this part. Let me kind of like add some music here that's like a little bit different. Let me, you know, do some color correction to try to like make these scenes match because these were shot with like 2 different cameras or something. And it's just like, it can drag on and on if you want to make like a well-edited training video. And I would say those 2017 training videos averaged between like 4 to 6 hours of total effort. And you know, we also did stuff where we would put in like timestamps in the description, and we would, you know, really kind of like go, you know, harder at it.
Yeah.
And the thing was that the view counts we were getting on most of them didn't justify the time. That was the real fundamental problem. So that was why we stopped doing them. And that was why we didn't do them. Now, I have all that footage from like 2018 Worlds, 2019 Worlds. Like I could do like 20, 30 good videos from both 2018 Worlds and 2019 Worlds. But it just like, and even, you know, different Europeans I could do good videos from, and some others, but it's just like the time has to be worth the you know, the effort, or the time has to be worth, you know, the payoff or whatever. And there were just too many where it was like a really good, interesting session. Like Rob would be doing like 180, 220 or this or that. And it would be like 2 weeks later and it'd be like 11,000 views. And I'd just be like,
Rob doesn't generate views. Like I've had him in a few thumbnails. He doesn't get views. Kianush, especially on Instagram, generates views, and I don't know what it is about the two.
Yeah, there's certain things that you like as a weightlifting fan, you're like, that's
Doesn't
really
make sense.
that's like a really good lift.
Yeah.
Why does no one care? It's actually the same with Chinese female lifters other than Dong Wei.
Yeah.
Literally none of them do well on Instagram. Like they could be doing a world record and it'll be like 31,000 views after 8 hours, and I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even post the snatch world record from Asians.
Which one?
Like I've never posted that video. Ho, I think it was. Or was it?
I can't even remember. I mean, you're probably right. I just can't even remember the lift. Probably because you can post it.
I'm gonna pull it up, but
yeah.
I think Gregor posted it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, oh,
yeah.
I'm not even gonna post it because like it's not even gonna do well. Like why why bother posting something that's just gonna do terribly? Let me look it up real quick just so I can remember the 2020 Asian Championships.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. I'm guessing the 2021 Asian champs are not going ahead, by the way.
Yeah, the 2021 probably are not happening.
I don't know if they've been officially cancelled, but I think they're still in as like pending.
It's still going to happen in November, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just like, date to be announced. No, yeah. So host snatched 96 at Asians.
Right, yeah.
At 49, like that's an insane lift.
Yeah.
Like, she's almost snatching double body weight. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I just didn't post it because I mean, first of all, it was partly because my video of it wasn't great because of where I was for that session. I ended up moving for the other days, but the first day I was kind of in a goofy spot, and it wasn't anything like the organizers did. It was I made a bad decision about where to be and which lenses to bring and stuff. I switched it up the next day, but my video of it wasn't great, but I did post the video of the 118 that Mirabai did.
Yeah.
But that just shows you, like, you definitely, or sorry, was it 119? Yeah, 119. Sorry.
Yeah.
You definitely would know that like Mirabai set a world record there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you didn't even know that the Chinese set a snatch world record.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you what it was. Is because you said ho, and I was like, but I guess that's my mispronunciation. You're talking about who I would pronounce as Hu Zhihui.
Yeah,
is it ho? Because when you said ho, I was like, I don't even know who this is.
So first of all, my Chinese pronunciation is worse than some of my other ones.
Yeah.
But they pronounce it more like ho than
right,
like
okay.
Hu
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. I mean, actually, that leads me on to a question I wanted to ask, which is kind of like it's an odd question. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but if anyone has, it's probably people like you. Is as a group of like media people, we give more attention to certain lifters than we do others. Do you feel like there are some lifters who, for some reason, just don't get popular despite the fact that people post them? They're really amazing. And then on the flip side, are there people who it's like, how did you get so famous where like you're not even like necessarily the best lifter, or maybe you are really good, but like nobody's been posting about you? Like, do you find that there are a few outliers where you're like, how did that lifter get so popular, or how are they still not so popular?
Yeah, there's definitely examples. I mean, it's tough for me to think of people off the top of my head.
Right.
But I mean, a lot of it, I mean, let's just be real. Like a lot of it comes down to like aesthetics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's sad, and I'm sure the woke crowd or whatever would be very upset with the idea that the better looking someone is, the more popular they are or whatever. Right. But
as though that wasn't how high school was.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of like human nature. It's just like it is what it is. You know what I mean? And like you can't really stop it. And especially with the way that algorithms work, I mean, you're not gonna get someone who is kind of like I don't know if like this is the right term to use, because like someone will probably get mad at me for this, but if someone's like not really an aesthetic lifter, they're not gonna be more popular than someone who has basically a good basically athletic looking muscular figure or whatever. It's just not, like for instance, no, you're not going to get some like random like fat dude to be more popular than Lou, because like Lou's walking around with like big traps. And,
I don't know. Maybe Lash. If you call Lasher a random fat dude, then Lasher maybe. But
he's
I feel like there's a little
bit there. There's a little bit of an exception for, I would say, male supers and I'm talking about in like the public. I don't know what to call it, like the zeitgeist or whatever. Like just in like the general public feeling. Like people seem willing to excuse male supers for being fat, but they don't seem to be willing to, do that for female supers, which I think is kind of sad, because they're, the female supers, and don't get me wrong, the female supers are fat. Anyone who says the female supers aren't fat is wrong. No, not Kashirina. She wasn't really fat, but like, I mean, in general, the female supers are fat, and so are the male supers. They're all fat. Like they're fat. If someone tries to say they're not fat, they're just lying to themselves. However, they're like exceptionally talented athletes to be doing what they're doing. Like what Li Wen can do, especially at her age, is absurd. Like I feel like people don't credit her age enough. She's so young and she's so good.
She just turned 21.
It's just unreal, like how good she is for how young she is. End of the day, she's fat. Same thing with Lasha. End of the day, he's fat. But like I feel like the level of comments that I get, like if I post a male super who, like I said, is fat, I will get very few
comments about it.
Comments. I'll get a few. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not zero. There are like, LOL, what's that, like one-time body weight sort of comments when he snatches like 220. But there's a lot of like, I'd be more impressed if he was snatching this percent of body weight or this or that. You do get those comments, but on a male one, it's, I would say 1/10 what you would get on a female one for someone doing something equally impressive, which is obviously incredibly unfair. But at the end of the day, in terms of popularity, there definitely are people that I'm like, they maybe should be more popular, or why are they so popular sometimes. But a lot of it comes down to aesthetics, and a lot of it also comes down to how good that person is with their own social media.
Absolutely.
The way that I would describe this is kind of like historically it's been myself and Gregor, but obviously now there's other people who are helping to kind of like elevate certain lifters into like the public consciousness, yourself being one of them, and others as well. But historically it was Gregor and I, and it basically, I would make it similar to us, like basically like we're kind of like punting someone into the air, you know what I mean? Who has the ability to fly. And if they kind of take off, a lot of it is their own doing,
because they kept flapping.
Because they kept flapping, but like we're kind of like giving them that head start to like get off the ground, whereas like they might have had trouble getting off the ground otherwise. Because there, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who I can think of who are fairly popular on Instagram that I can remember, like the first time that I posted them, I remembered checking their Instagram before, and it was 1,100 followers. And then a week after I posted a video of them, they were at 6,500. Their numbers just exploded. But then if they don't kind of like cultivate and maintain that relationship with their new followers and kind of grow that, then they a year and a half later, they're at like 8,200. Whereas there's other people who you kind of like kickstart and then they
just
take off. Because they're providing like good kind of like daily interesting content. Their fans kind of engage with them, blah blah blah. But we're definitely good for kind of like that bump where it's like going like this, and then it goes like this, and then it goes like this, and then it goes like this. Like we can bump people up and help to promote lifters, which is kind of it's an aspect of the job I enjoy doing, which is to kind of like help bring kind of like good talented lifters into that kind of public weightlifting fan consciousness, so it's not, the same 5 or 10 people who people know about, kind of bring new people into that. But at the end of the day, someone who has better aesthetics is going to have a better chance at kind of maintaining that, growth with fans and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, that's a big factor too, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where it's also a little bit something where I think that I post people who are popular because, obviously I want the better results. So there's definitely something to be said for it happening in reverse, where I kind of try to post stuff that'll be popular. Like, I'm obviously more interested in posting a Lou snatch record than Lee Dayan snatch record. That being said, I'll post both of them. Because they're both interesting. Like, I will still post bad stuff sometimes on purpose, I guess I would say, even if I know it's going to do bad, just because it's a really incredible lift. But I definitely would rather post incredible lifts by popular people. Like, I would much rather have a Toma big snatch than and I'm not saying anything bad about any of the other 64s, but literally any other 64. Even good ones, even ones who are popular on social media. Even Dungwei, Sarah Davies, Mode, like anyone. I would rather have that good Toma snatch to post, because it would be more popular. Once again, if Sarah does a good lift, I'll post it. If Mode does a good lift, I'll post it. So it's not so much that I won't post it, but I'm definitely more, I don't know if excited is the right word, but like, I'm more like, oh damn, this is going to be a real popular one.
This is going to do well.
This is going to do well because Toma just PR'd her snatch,
right
sort of thing. So
interesting.
Anyway,
no, I mean, I agree with you there, to be honest. Now I know we've done a long time, so I won't keep you too much longer. Do you have time for like one more topic?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
all right, cool. We still hold the record for longest ever Weightlifting House podcast. And
I remember doing a really long one.
We've come within like 5 to 10 minutes of it a few times, and I've actually purposely shut down episodes with like Josh have been like, no, we can't take the record. So I think we hold it. We're not even close to that. We're like half. I think we did like 2 hours 45 or something crazy. But okay, so something that I'd be interested in then is, should weightlifting be kicked out of the Olympics? And this is something I've spoken about quite a lot of times. Should weightlifting be kicked out of the Olympics? What do you see being the landscape of the sport? Do you see it maintaining its popularity in some of the Western countries where the sport is for hobbyists in many ways, USA, UK, various places like that, but then the highest level of talent dropping off because it's not government funded anymore? Or do you see new federations? Like, how do you imagine that's going to affect our sport?
At first, I thought you were asking, just should weightlifting be kicked out of the Olympics?
Oh shit, no.
Like, do I think it should? That was like, I was like, this is going to be an interesting answer. So, all right.
If you want to answer that as well,
I would say in the case that weightlifting does get kicked out of the Olympics, I would say it's very tough to say, because on the one hand, it could get more interesting for a period of time. Yeah. Because the thing is that you have a lot of basically talent in the pipeline. You know what I'm saying? China has really good 14-year-olds lifting right now. You know what I mean? They have really good 16-year-olds lifting that no one knows about. And that's happening in a lot of other countries too. There's a lot of youth development going on in tons of countries.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who are, I would say, like, new to the pro scene. And by that, I mean, like, within the last couple of years, like a Lee Dayan type or someone like that, who has basically trained his whole life for the eventual chance at the Olympic gold. And in theory, he's like I would say like 2024 favorite in a lot of ways. And if they pull weightlifting out of the Olympics, these people need these people still have stuff they're going to need to do. Like they're still going to need to do something. Now, some of them will obviously just kind of like retire and go do other stuff, especially the older ones who were probably kind of headed that way anyway. Like I'm pretty sure you wouldn't see Lasha continue, even though he's not that old. I mean, he's 28 and he's, you know, he's got 2 gold medals and he's a national hero and blah, blah. Like, what is Lasha? You know, what's he going to prove if weight? You know, I think they'll keep lifting if weightlifting is in Paris, but I don't think he would keep lifting otherwise. And so I feel like you know, those people that do have something to prove, or you know, kind of like are younger, like they wouldn't necessarily stop lifting if there are opportunities for them. So a lot of it would come down to, you know, what sort of federations form, what sort of events would they hold, blah, 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 blah. What I would be more worried about would be the 10 to 20 year timeline where China has stopped developing athletes and other countries have stopped developing athletes. And a lot of young athletes are thinking, you know, even in the US, you know, a 10-year-old might be thinking, should I go into this? Should I go into that? And their coach might say, well, you'd be a really good weightlifter, but honestly, you'd also be a really good thrower. So let's put you into throwing because that's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so there would just be like this talent drain over time that I feel like the sport would greatly suffer in like the 20-year time frame. That's not to say no one would do it. And it also depends a lot on the external factors. You know, like I said, if a good federation forms that has good promotion, good funding, kind of like the companies and stuff like that could really do that would be, you know, let's say like Rogue and hookgrip and a few others. Let's say we all partnered to basically try to like run meets, like kind of similar to how Rogues run some CrossFit events, but let's say we all partner to kind of like run some meets and start a federation of some kind. I think the right, I would say like conglomeration of companies could come together to run something that would be interesting and fun and like kind of like exciting for people to participate in and blah, blah, blah. Because in countries like the US, where there are thousands of CrossFits, those barbells and bumper plates don't disappear because weightlifting goes out of the Olympics. Like those barbells and bumper plates are there. Yeah. You know, someone's going to use them, you know, so you need to give people like the right avenue to kind of like put their efforts into. But if you have something that's kind of like interesting and exciting, I mean, there's still a lot of people who would train and put a lot of their effort into something as long as there are interesting and exciting competitions to go to.
Yeah, I think so.
If there's nothing to compete for, then the sport like really dies. Like if there's just no more weightlifting meets, then of course the sport dies. But if you think about it, look at how many people in the US are training hard who come into the sport when they're like 20 after, you know, basically dropping whatever sport they did before. And realistically, 99% of them have no shot at the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, so it, like I said, I think a lot of it will come down to like organizations and quality of competitions and stuff like that in certain developed countries that are, you know, more so, you know, people are kind of like weightlifting on their own. You know, in China for sure dies out over time. In like, you know, countries where it's like very heavily government funded, where people have really the main incentive to lift is because they can make money from it. You know, those countries for sure it dies out over time. And you would basically have this like 10-year period where you could kind of like I don't know if like use is the wrong word, but there's 10 years where we could enjoy the fruits of the development efforts that have been put in. Yeah. And after that, it all kind of dies off. And and by enjoy, I mean like, you know, you could maybe you know, get someone who's a high level weightlifter, like a, you know, like a Luis Mosquera or someone like that. You could maybe get him to like come compete in a meet because he's still in good shape.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
If you say, hey, we'll fly you in, we'll pay you this, blah, 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 you could essentially watch someone who's exceptional compete from Colombia, but in 20 years, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I see it going. Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. And the answer to whether it should be kicked out is, I would say, and this might be kind of controversial, but I would say maybe yes.
Yeah.
Just because it's been like so bad, and
so bad.
The executive committee or whatever it's called, like the board, I don't even know exactly what the right term is, but the IWF has just been so resistant to any sort of change. And like, you can tell that they're kind of like trying to figure out how they can keep all the same people in power while not actually getting kicked out, while, blah, blah, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that in weightlifting.
Yeah. And
it's like, it's very frustrating from the outside, which is like, just let yourself go.
Yeah.
And let someone else come in. And whether or not the someone else would do a better job, just let someone else have a crack at it, because it obviously has not gone well with the current leadership.
Yeah.
And so, and is that like entirely the fault of the current leadership, or was that a lot of it, did a lot of it rest with like Tamashayan, and the current leadership is just kind of like unable, like just doesn't have the skills to kind of like sort through, what was left to them, and blah, 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 blah. I don't really know the answer to that. Like, I don't really blame every single IWF board member for this, you know what I mean? But it's just like, all right, to me, the natural thing to do is to say, all right, listen, we're all going to resign, and let's get new people in here. If nothing else, just for appearance. Like, if you care about the sport, just resign and let someone else come in, just for appearance's sake. Because if it'll help, kind of save the sport that people say they care about, then just do that. And they just have been very unwilling to do that, and like very unwilling to kind of like accept real change. And there's clearly still doping in weightlifting at a significant level. And it's just like very frustrating to watch from from the perspective of someone who cares about the sport, enjoys the sport, wants to see the sport like thrive.
Right.
And I would say the last like 2 years have been like very frustrating for me with weightlifting, where I'm just like kind of watching this. It kind of reminds me of like kind of like a very, very badly made like horror movie, where like someone is clearly able to get away, but is like not actually getting away. You know what I mean? And it's just like very slow motion death. But I mean, here's the thing. I hope it doesn't get kicked out, because obviously I care about the sport, and I think that would be really bad for the sport to get kicked out. So I hope it doesn't. And I hope that, the people involved have done enough to kind of keep it in, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was just back on our last topic about weightlifters who would do well or wouldn't do well on social media. I was just thinking, can you imagine if, I know he benefited it from it somewhat, but can you imagine if Klokov was actively competing now? Like, I mean, he had the benefit of the 2014, 2015, like he did the hang and the pause 200s, which I don't know if it was you or Greg or one of you filmed. I think maybe you each got one of them, but like those did a lot.
The 25th, the famous session that like does well on, or has done really well on YouTube, is Gregor's 2015 video.
Right. Yeah.
Which until recently was probably the most popular weightlifting YouTube video.
Yeah.
I think it was. You know what's weird though?
Views.
Yeah, we've got one video on our hookgrip 2 account, of all accounts, that's like up to like 10 million views. Which is a completely insane stat.
What is that?
Yeah, I don't. Type in. I don't know if you know how to spell her name, but type in Kayla Stefano 91 clean and jerk.
Okay.
I don't know. We just got blessed by like the YouTube Shorts algorithm or something like that. I'm not sure.
Oh, is it a short?
Well, I mean, everything on Hook Grip 2 is a short because it's basically all of our, or not all of them, but for a while it was all of our country Instagram videos.
Yeah.
But like we have one video that just went completely insane this year. That's up to like 10 million views, which I think is, or it might be like 9 point something. But
I'm pretty sure that's the most viewed weightlifting video then.
No, it has to be.
Yeah,
like
I've looked.
I've looked around.
9.3. Oh my god!
You know, obviously,
it doesn't even make sense. The thumbnail's like it's fine, but it's not that good. And then the next highest is 186,000. Yeah, no, they're absolutely disgusting.
I'm trying to figure out how to stop this phone. Keeps ringing. Anyway, you guys probably aren't hearing it. I'm just hearing it in my AirPods.
Yeah.
So, the thing about that video is, you know, obviously I don't have monetization turned on and stuff like that. So I didn't like make any money from it, but it just went completely insane earlier this year. Like if I sent you the graph of views over time for that, you would be like, what in the world? Because
it's just that 90 degree.
Yeah, it had been up for years.
Right.
Like it's not a new video.
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
It's been up for years. And then at some point when like they released the shorts thing, I guess YouTube Shorts algorithm was like, hey, look at this channel that's basically all shorts because everything's 60 seconds or under.
Yeah.
And they just somehow the algorithm looked at it and was just like, okay, this is the one we're going to promote.
Yeah.
And like then it just went completely insane, and a lot of it was in India.
Right. Okay.
Like if you look at the comments, there's going to be, I would say like 9 out of 10 will be Indian.
Yeah. This is crazy.
That's for some reason you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, am I still breaking up now?
No, it's better now. Maybe watching the video like messes it up.
Oh, I'm turning it off.
I don't know.
But that is like, if someone said to me, what's like name the top 5 most viewed YouTube videos, I'd probably basically get them in some weird order. I've never even heard, like I had no, that's like almost 3 times as much as the next highest.
Yeah, it's like it's more than double as, and there, don't get me wrong, there are some popular videos out there of like, there's some compilation videos of like Toshiki and Lou and some others that you know are in the millions, and we have a video of Ilya that's in the millions.
242 slow-mo.
Yeah, that one's in the millions. And you know, we have some other, I would say like popular videos, but there's like nothing like that one in terms of view counts on YouTube. That's got to be the most popular way. That's like an interesting tidbit. I guess now that you know some people are going to see this, it's not quite as secret. But I feel like if you had asked someone that, you know, a month ago, on, you know, just at like a weightlifting meet, almost no one would get it right.
No. And also if you said to people name the account, no one would guess Hook Grip 2.
Hook Grip 2, yeah. Most people don't even know what Hook Grip 2 is. I mean, Hook Grip 2 is basically just, and by the way, our subscribers went up like crazy on Hook Grip 2. Like I think it went from like maybe 1,200 to like 16,000 just due to that video.
Yeah, that's like, nuts. That's nuts.
Which obviously is 16,000 is not that many subscribers, but it's like just as a percentage, that's insane.
Yeah. From that one video. Wow. Okay, so final question then. I've heard you being asked, I think I asked you, I've heard you on other podcasts who your favorite lifter is. I don't want to hear Zakharevich. So not including him, who's your favorite weightlifter?
I mean, probably Arem now. You know?
Yeah.
And there's like a bunch of reasons for it. But it's really, it comes down to, I just love his technique.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just like that. I remember just like watching his, like, you know, one of the videos, there's a few videos I would say that got me into weightlifting, but there was I don't even know if it's still on YouTube or not, but there was a video that just showed his 6 attempts from Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember just being like, this is so sick.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Just like how perfect that meet was for him, where he literally wiped all the junior records, wiped all the Olympic records, wiped all the senior records. Obviously a little controversial with wiping the senior records, because technically Tsagayev had that record, and for some reason the IWF didn't credit it. I still don't no one has explained that to me.
No,
at least not adequately. But in theory, wiped all 9 records from Olympic, junior, and senior. Won the Olympics, went 6 for 6, did absurd numbers, blah blah blah. I was, that always stuck with me as one of the most impressive things I'd seen. And I also just liked that his lifting, like I said, I just liked the technique. The one thing I would say I don't like about his technique is I feel like sometimes he doesn't actually stop between the clean and the jerk. I'm surprised he doesn't get called for it more. Where it's just you didn't stop there. You basically just went. But I understand what he's doing, which is he's trying to use the oscillation. But Arem now's, especially his snatch technique, is just unreal. And so I've just always been a big fan of Arem now. And there's other reasons for it too, which is that not that I am from there, because that's a very stretch of a thing to say, because all of my grandparents were born in the US. We're we're not recent to the US, but as of the late 1800s, the vast majority of my ancestry was living in Belarus.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So 75% of my ancestry is kind of from the Belarus, Ukraine area. 25% is extremely, I would say actually British, because they came over in the 1600s from the UK, or what's now the UK. But the other 75%, a lot of it is from there. So I almost feel like I kind of identify with Ukrainian, Belarusian, kind of Polish region athletes a little bit more so, just because it's my ancestry. And it would be a little bit tougher for me to be I'm just a huge Fernando Race fan or something like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Fernando in general, and super nice guy, this and that, but I'm more so going to be a fan of people who are my size and where I'm kind of originally from. You know what I mean? That's kind of a little more natural to me. The same way that, someone whose parents are, were born in China and they were raised in the US, they're more likely to be a fan of Chinese lifters than they are of, British lifters. So that's kind of where I'm at. But Arem now would be the number one name that would stick out for me. But Zakharevich is kind of the same argument, kind of someone that's around my size and just an incredible athlete, all-time historic athlete.
Fourth highest Sinclair, I think, or fourth. I think fourth.
Just absurd. Just the thing is, I feel like the first 100 videos that you watch of something are always going to kind of stick with you more so than the 15,000th one. And so one of the earliest ones I watched was Zakharevich in '88. And I just remember thinking dude, that's just absurd to just have that much power at that size. To do 210 at 110 is what? And to be honest, I've always been more of a it's a little difficult to explain this, but I've been more of a snatch fan, but I feel clean and jerk is more impressive. I don't know how else to explain it that than that.
I've heard you explain it before, whether you remember this or not, but I remember you saying on a podcast once that it was the sport was made to decide who was the strongest person. And so the clean and jerk is almost the more legitimate of the two lifts to some, you used Rivakov as an example, you can almost be not that strong and still snatch a lot, but the clean and jerk is a better test.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually that thing about like the sport was determined by that. That actually came from, some of my discussions with bros over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically, and Bros is really one of the people that got me into weightlifting. And I remember him explaining to me very early on where he was just like, the way that this sport even got developed was in the 1800s. And even before that this happened, but the way like kind of like modern weightlifting happened was in the 1800s, a bunch of dudes were standing around arguing about who was the strongest, and then they basically eventually figured out, well, let's put some tests out there for us to try who's the strongest, and like what defines strength more so than taking something and putting it over your head. Now of course it started with some weird shit, like there was like
stones and stuff.
It was stones, and I think at the early Olympics there were like 5 lifts, and there was like one-handed snatch, and stuff that people now would consider to be like, oh, that's kind of like a cloak up circus lift style thing. But it started out with them kind of refining, what were the lifts, and obviously at one point there was clean and press for a long time, and then that went out the door, blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if the sport is who's kind of the strongest, then it really should be who can put the most weight over their head, period, in any way.
Yeah.
And, there are some rules that I feel like take away from it, things like the press out, where you're not really, by taking out the press out, you're not figuring out who's the strongest.
Right. No,
like in no way does that, help determine who's the strongest by having a press out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even make sense if you're thinking about it from a who's the strongest person here. It should literally be in my opinion, a true strongest test for something like this. And obviously you could make arguments for like, oh, well, isn't the strongest person the one who can pick up the most in like a deadlift?
Yeah.
But I would say no, because that's not kind of testing other parts of your strength. Like you can be strong in a deadlift and have terrible overhead strength, whereas like you can't be strong in a clean and jerk and have terrible pulling strength.
Yeah.
So
or squatting, or pressing.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. You have to have a lot of different strengths to be good in a clean and jerk. But what I would say a true weightlifting test, and this sounds kind of CrossFit-y in some ways, but I would say it would literally just be ground to overhead any way you want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter like if you want to pause, because all these rules about like, oh, they paused at the knee in the clean, that's not a lift.
Yeah.
Like, what sort of dumb rule is that? You know what I mean? Like, how is it helping someone to pause at the knee in the clean?
Yeah.
It's not helping them. They're an idiot. Like, not an idiot, but they're not efficient, I guess is maybe a better way to put it. I mean, if you're not being efficient, then you're you're losing kilos.
Right.
So I would say let someone pause at the knee, let them do some sort of press out.
Yeah.
Let them do this, let them do that. Now I understand like, there's arguments for like, oh, well, you want the sport to be more viewable, and you don't want like these ugly press outs, and you don't want to like, I've also heard the argument, and by the way, I would say for snatch I would allow less in the way of press outs because the bar is so much closer to people's head, and it's more of a safety issue in the snatch, in my opinion.
And it happens way less in the snatch.
Yeah, I mean it happens with both, but it's definitely more of an issue in the clean and jerk where there's like just an elbow wobble and someone doesn't get the lift. It's like the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Sometimes where, especially in Tokyo, it was like embarrassing. Yeah. Now I understand that they were very strict across the board in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily that unfair from person to person, but they did give some lifts that were press outs, like Macy's last clean and jerk. That was by most standards during the Olympics, that was a press out.
Yeah.
In most meets, it wasn't. In most meets, it's a good lift, but by the Tokyo standards, it was. But it's just like, So that's what I would say with clean and jerk is just like, I feel like that is like the one that really tests you, and that's the one. Like I said, it's more impressive to me if someone has a really good clean and jerk than a really good snatch. But simultaneously, I like watching really good snatch technique more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little difficult to reconcile that, but in my head, it makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but
I totally get it. Yeah. Clean and jerk wins competitions. It's like that's the big lift. That's the most important lift. But you can't beat watching a snatch world record. And I bet posting on Instagram, I bet you would get more views for the most popular lifter snatching a world record than clean and jerk it. I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, there's also something to be said for with a snatch video. Especially if I trim the front of the video, like everything happens in the first 3 seconds of the video.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty engaging video. If you look at any really engaging video, you're not going to have the most interesting thing isn't going to happen 15 seconds in. The most interesting thing is going to happen 3 seconds in.
Yeah.
Because you're going to do better.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, if you were to, everything else being equal, snatch videos do better than clean and jerk videos.
Yeah.
But I mean, that being said, a good clean and jerk video still does well. Certainly that doesn't do poorly if it's, I would say, an interesting lift.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nat, well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. As always, I'm pleased we were able to work out the whole runner stuff. Try to work out was this film actually made about you or not. It was interesting talking about the poker side of stuff, and then obviously your views on weightlifting are certainly unique because, well, that's not true. Your perspective is unique. Your views, I'm sure a lot of people have similar views, but your perspective, you're coming from a place that is very different to where most people have been because you've seen so many more weightlifters than most people will ever see. It sounds almost stupid to ask, but where can people go to stay up to date with everything hook grip?
Yeah, I mean, I figure people watching Weightlifting House are probably big. I feel like Weightlifting House is for more like, I don't know if like hardcore fans, but like people who are watching Weightlifting House are probably weightlifting fans.
Yeah,
I mean, they probably if they want to follow hook grip, they're already following hook grip, and if they don't want to follow hook grip, they're not following it, and it's frankly fine either way. It's not a big deal.
The way I see it is on a sort of Venn diagram, Weightlifting House sits almost completely inside hook grip somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like there's an overlap. It's like I think it's just in it.
Yeah, or like I said, there's definitely some weightlifting fans. Like we've got our contingent of I don't know if like haters is the right word, but people that just like I hate slow-mo videos or something. You know what I mean? And they just don't follow hook grip for whatever reason. But which is fine. But some of those people I'm sure are following Weightlifting House because they still enjoy weightlifting, but they just hate slow-mo or something like that. But
makes sense.
Anyway, people know where to go. They can just go to hook grip. I mean, we actually have reduced some a lot of our posting frequency over the years because of some of the stuff we discussed in this podcast. But I'd say just hook grip on various channels. They can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I will stick links down below. Nat, thanks so much once again, and I'll see you at Worlds.
Thank you. See you. Yeah, that's actually pretty much right. I mean, it's basically, so the movie was initially based on this thing that happened in 2007 with an online poker site cheating its customers. No, I'm telling you not what happened in the movie. I'm telling you what happened in real life. In your life, yeah. In real life, yeah. So, and then I'll get into the movie first. So the basic answer is in 2007, in the summer of 2007, some poker players on a site called Absolute Poker, and also their sister site. They own two sites, one called Ultimate Bet. People noticed some kind of like weird things happening, and it was a little different than without having poker players as the audience of this podcast. It's like a little difficult to explain what weird things mean. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't that people were getting lucky, okay? Because people in poker get, and really any sort of chance game, obviously they're even if something's 1% still happens 1 out of 100 times,
right?
So it's going to happen sometimes. So what was happening wasn't people getting lucky. It was people doing things that you would not like be able to do. Like, do you know the rules for poker?
Yeah, I do. I play
Okay.
poker a bit, and I mean, I was looking into this, and it looks like there were these like super accounts, is what they were calling them
Yeah,
online, that were,
super users. Yeah,
yeah, and they were like aware of what hands everybody had.
pretty much. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly what it was. So it was the owners of the poker site
Right.
that ended up doing it. So that was why they had this access, but they were doing things that you literally could not do without knowing the hands.
Right.
An example would be they would call with 9 high on the
Mhm.
river when
Right.
someone shoved all their chips in.
Yeah. It's like
You
you wouldn't
you
do that.
can you cannot do that
Yeah.
unless you know the other hand.
Uh-huh.
Now, obviously, one time could be a misclick where you meant to click fold, but you click call and you're like, oh shit, and then
Mhm.
you're like, oh crap, I won.
Yeah.
So it's not, if you see something happen once, it's really not enough to say. But if the same person calls with these terrible hands in situations where they don't even have a chance, it's one thing to call with like a flush draw in a bad situation where it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
You at least maybe have a shot to win the hand. But if you're at the end of the hand with no more cards to come and you have 9 high, you don't. It basically the poker players who were noticing weird things happening were were people who I trusted to be smart. So
Yeah.
anyway, um, I'm going to try to not go too much into this because I'm guessing this audience has no idea what I'm talking
Now
about with
this is
any of
my
this.
new poker podcast, so this is
Yeah.
great for them. Yeah.
Okay. That's why it says weightlifting on your shirt,
Yeah.
not poker.
Right.
So anyway, the basic idea is that this weird stuff was happening. And I basically, along with a couple other people, helped to prove that the owners were doing it.
Right.
And I was able to do that through a combination of kind of like database work.
Yeah.
I did some database work because I had some background doing database stuff. And I was also able to prove it with the help of some like human factor stuff where I knew some people who knew some people who, were able to like help me prove things.
Mhm.
And just a lot of, I would actually call it, this sounds really bad in the age of like vaccine misinformation, but I was able to prove a lot of it through what I would call like internet research.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I was literally doing my own research. But a lot of it was like looking up things like real estate records. That was a major component of it, and there was a lot of other stuff.
Mhm.
So basically, long story short, myself, a few other people, it wasn't just me, but a few other people along with me helped to show that it was the owners cheating. And then I ended up going down to Costa Rica
Yeah.
to essentially I went down to Costa Rica to kind of try to I don't know how to say it, but basically get more information about it. And so that's where the kind of story came from.
Mhm.
And
Is
I
this where
didn't
you
know.
had to sign this NDA? Is that at this point in the sort of uncovering of everything?
So when I went down there, I agreed to sign an NDA with that site, but the NDA didn't cover things that I already knew. The NDA covered them showing me some additional information. See, eventually, once the site realized that they were caught,
Yeah.
they were kind of doing some, I would say like PR slash, maybe some of it was genuine, trying
Yeah.
to like fix up their operations.
Mhm.
And they were trying. It wasn't, by the way, it wasn't like there was one owner.
Mhm.
There was more than one owner. One of the owners was the guy who was cheating.
Oh,
So the
right.
other
Okay.
owners were like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
let's get him out of here." Even though they were all college friends from Montana, so I'm not
Right.
sure if they really ever like truly disowned him. But
Mhm.
um, anyway, it was, yeah. So eventually, I went down there, and all that stuff happened. But so anyway, that was where the movie was in theory kind of based on.
Because I've been telling people for like, honestly, for like 5 years, every now and then your name will come up and I'll be like, oh, do you guys know that Matt Damon played Nat in a Hollywood film, which isn't true. But like that was, for some reason, that was a name that just stuck me. And people were like, said be full of shit.
It was
There's no
Justin
way this
Timberlake.
happened. Yeah. And I was like, I promise you, big Hollywood film. And everyone's like, no chance. And then finally for this, I was like, I'm going to find this stuff out. And I was like, there we go. It was Justin Timberlake and Ben Affleck. And I was watching the trailer trying to work out which one is you. I was like, yeah, it's Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. So anyway, the other thing to mention is that the guys who wrote that film were two guys who I actually don't know one of them, but the one of them I knew a bit more and like had some interaction with. Mm-hmm. So they were big poker fans,
right? Okay,
and they're the ones who wrote a famous movie called Rounders, which was a Matt Damon and Edward Norton movie from the late 90s, which was a famous movie. A lot of people have seen it. And that one was actually a good movie. Runner was not really a good movie. It was pretty, I didn't ever watch it till I was like on a plane.
How is that possible? I can't, like, it could be like if there was a film made about my life, even just loosely, I'm watching that and I'm probably inviting everyone I know around for the grand opening.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't that excited about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that like I said, I knew the writers to a degree, and you know, I gave them like a little bit of information about what happened, and I think what happened was they kind of like heard about the Absolute Poker Ultimate Bet scandal. They heard about what I did, what the other people did, and they kind of took that as like a starting point, and then they kind of interpreted a lot of stuff and made a lot of, you know, kind of like went off the deep end with their kind of like creative interpretation of what happened.
Right.
And what the movie ended up being was not really at all what really happened. And it wasn't an attempt to be like, if you ask them, they wouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, no, we were trying to, you know, tell this story. I think that they were more so, we were maybe inspired by this story to come up with a more interesting storyline, because what actually happened wasn't really that interesting.
Right.
So that's I think that's like actually the truth of what happened. Now, it definitely was not like a documentary. You know, I wasn't like on the set being like, that's not how it happened. You know.
So you didn't hang out with Ben and Justin?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't never on the set, blah blah blah. But no, I mean, it's kind of like an interesting footnote.
Yeah.
The idea of it.
It's crazy. Yeah, I got a quote here that said that you were instrumental in exposing and investigating the Absolute Poker cheating scandal, and that it was like
that part is mostly true.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely a major part of that. Like I said, I wasn't the only guy. There were a few other people who were involved who helped with that, but I was definitely a major part of that. But yeah, in terms of the movie, it wasn't accurate. But
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it was saying so you decoded this large data file that an observer of the tournament was a super account, and he was linked to the company and able to see all of the cards, and he was on the same IP as the winner, which I guess is kind of sketchy. So like you were obviously in and I want to move from poker to weightlifting at some point, trust me, but I'm still kind of interested. Were you like a big poker player? Because I've heard on other podcasts you saying that you had various websites, they weren't like playing poker, but they were more informational or informative, that sort of stuff. Were you like, did you get into it because you were good at playing poker, or were you just like a data analyst type guy?
I would say my level of playing poker was fairly similar to my weightlifting ability. Which to say is, it's not that I've never touched a barbell.
Yeah.
I got into it because I was doing barbell stuff. However, I was never a highly active, I was never like a professional poker player.
Yeah.
no one would be like, wow, that guy was one of the best poker players, just the same way that no one would say I'm one of the best weightlifters.
Right.
None of that stuff. It's a very actually similar analogy. And however, I was very involved in poker, like basically the business side. I mean, in a lot of ways, my websites and kind of activities related to poker are very similar to weightlifting, where you would be like, well, no, he's been involved in it, or he's been a part of it, or he's helped it, or this or that. You could make a lot of like claims that are whatever, statements about it, but doesn't actually, doing the thing that the sport or the game is about is not necessarily his core thing or my core thing.
Right.
So it's actually very similar with poker and with weightlifting. So yeah, I had various businesses related to poker. The one I couldn't have, obviously, just for legality reasons, I never actually owned or worked for, or in any way was like, related to an actual site where you could gamble, because that's just not allowed in the US. It would have gotten me into a bunch of trouble. But I had a bunch of other businesses that were kind of like tangentially related to poker, and that's pretty much it. Now, I did play. I mean, I know the rules. I know the strategy. I knew and still know actually a lot of the best players in the world. Like, if you pull up like a high stakes poker video or whatever, and some people, I'm trying to think of like who's famous or whatever, but like someone
Phil
like
Ivey.
like Phil Ivey. The thing about Phil Ivey was that he was always like very insular, where he wasn't one of these kind of like outgoing, hang out with like the internet poker kids sort of people. He was more of like a live guy who was friends with some of the longtime, Vegas pros, and they would play in like the high stakes room at like the Bellagio and stuff. Now, eventually Phil Ivey did get into online poker with his association with Full Tilt. But and once again, I'm sorry if anyone out there is like, I don't know what any of these things are, but someone has to know a little bit about poker for me to talk about poker.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm literally explaining everything. But I'm talking about guys who, like Tom Dwan, who's a very famous high stakes player at this point. I mean, I literally knew him when he was like just like a kid getting started with poker. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I met him, hung out with him, many times when he was like living in a like house in Vegas for the summer with his friends for the World Series of Poker.
Right.
Now Tom Dwan is like flying on private planes to like go to these like high stakes games in like Macau and stuff like that. A lot of them have like really come a long way. And of course, a lot of them also now are involved very heavily in like crypto and this, that, and the other. Like a lot of them, what I realized, or what I've realized over the last decade plus, is that a lot of these poker players are just really, really smart, and they gravitate to whatever opportunity that they have that is that they think makes sense to them.
There's some level of like odds based prediction of outcomes sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, they just they're just really good at identifying opportunities. And for a lot of them in the 2005 to 2011 range, that was poker. And then for a lot of them in the 2011 to recent is crypto.
Right.
The poker kind of legality situation has still like not really been resolved in most of the US. So I think a lot of poker players have kind of moved on to do other stuff that they can do, where they can kind of, find an edge over other people, basically. So
I know
a lot of them actually moved on to daily fantasy sports too. I know some of them, or just sports betting in general. A lot of them are like really, really good at stuff like that. Like I know a few people who would, the thing is, I don't know the daily fantasy sports market nearly as well as I knew poker, but I probably know a bunch of the best daily fantasy sports players in the world. So it's kind of like, it's all the same crowd of people, just kind of just which thing they choose to focus on.
Yeah, your like comparison with what you know about poker and then weightlifting is so similar, because like you know all the rules, you know all of the top people, you've watched people go from like just starting out to either flying in jets or winning Olympic gold medals. Like there's a serious crossover there.
No, it's very similar. Whenever I think about it, I'm just like, pretty much I just moved from poker to weightlifting and I'm doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.